Hey YouTube, Scarecrow here, and I am here today to talk about a topic that probably won't come up a lot. This is a matchup that you don't see come up a lot. A lot of it has to do with Murakumo is a relatively pretty strong clan, and when it comes to tournament plays, it will probably do well and not have to play against too many of the weaker decks. It'll go on to play against stronger decks. Whereas Nubatama in a tournament. Nubatama, it's really cool, and I like the clan, but it has a lot of bad, not great things going on right now. It needs a little bit more to do better, and because of that, if it goes into a tournament, it will probably lose a lot. And so these decks are probably taking two paths in a tournament. This deck's probably winning and being more in the winner's circle. This deck's probably staying in the loser's circle, and these decks aren't going to interact a lot. That said, though, if you don't get to play this matchup, you probably didn't know. Nubatama is actually really strong against Murakumo here. And in my experiences so far, Nubatama will win more than it will lose against this deck. Probably 3 out of 4 games it will probably win at least. So that's a pretty big deficit here. So let's get talking about it. And we're going to start with the way Murakumo plays. Now, Murakumo is a deck that has a super strong centered play built around a combo of these guys and him, in which you're going to need your 3 counterblasts to do that play. Because of this, Murakumo tends to usually hold back early game. If you put out rear guards, your opponent can just attack and kill them and avoid giving you your counterblasts. So it's easier to play around the lockdown play later on. So it's not in your general interest to put out rear guards typically early game because your opponent can just pick them off and play around you. So you usually don't put out that, and you want it. And then on that same line of thought, Murakumo usually doesn't guard early game because they want that counterblast to make it harder for the opponent to play around the Zanbaku lock. So that said, Nubatama is very strong at taking advantage of how Murakumo plays. So let's get into that. So let's say Murakumo went first. They probably didn't do a whole lot so far. They haven't put out a very strong offense because their opponent can just play around it and kill off rear guards. They're probably just trying to force the opponent to give them the counterblast they need to do their lockdown. Let's say it's Nubatama's player's turn. Now, Nubatama, if it's going to win games, it's going to win games because it does the Kogoshirigasu here. Shigarashi, whatever his bird's name is. All right. A well-built version of this deck typically will get this card off almost every game. Probably 3 or 4 out of 5 games you're going to get the bird off. It's not hard to do. I would say probably at least half the time, if not more than half the time, you can do it from the turn you ride grade 3. If you drew a PG before you rode to grade 3, you can probably do the bird right away. So let's say in this scenario that Murakumo went first, Nubatama rides to grade 3, and they have the setup. They can Congo, rip a card out of hand, drop bird, rip 5 more cards out of hand. The Murakumo player might have had some rear guards at this point, and they're going to get guard restricted now. And let's say we have a Dreadmaster, because we play 4 of it. It's pretty good odds we might have one. So let's say that's just 6 cards going right now, and some guard restrict put in there. Now you're going to go to your battle phase, and you're going to start doing your thing. This is actually really tough on Murakumo, because Murakumo is a lockdown deck, or a combo-based lockdown. So the fact that they had 6 cards ripped right away and a guard restrict put on them, and they're probably at 2 or 3 damage, which means a strong push can actually be pretty hard on them at this point. The guard restrict is going to make it harder to guard. The fact that you lost 6 cards is going to make it harder to guard, and you're trying to actually hold on to a combo setup, as well as you probably want more than just like the combo, because if all you do is have Zanbaku and left and right, your offense is going to be like terrible, and the opponent's not going to care. So it makes it really hard on the Murakumo deck to deal with like such restrictions and so much card loss. And when the Murakumo player gets back to their turn after dealing with such a massive like hit to them, even if they can set up their lockdown combo, as I just said a moment ago, their offense for that turn is going to be pretty weak probably. They probably don't have cards like make a strong rear guard setup. And because they're not going to be making a strong setup, it's easier on the Nubatama player to just brush off that turn. And Murakumo can't really afford that. Murakumo's strength is the fact that it doesn't usually have to guard early game, and then it can throw down, lock the opponent down, put out a big offense, hit them hard, and then when it gets back to the other player's turn, because their Vanguard can't attack, they can only do it with their rear guards. The fact that the Murakumo player took damage early and doesn't have probably a super strong hand is made up for the fact that the opponent's only able to do attack with rear guards. So it's easier to block them, which helps with the fact that you don't have a strong defense. And then it gets back to the Murakumo's turn, and you're going to hit them really hard again. However, because of the way this interaction is going, that's not going to work out so great for the Murakumo, because their first turn of the lock was really weak. They didn't have a strong offense. The opponent's able to brush it off really easy. And that means that the other player will probably be able to have a stronger offense on their turn. So it gets back to the Nubatama player's turn again. Now their Vanguard is locked down, but Kujikango here can still be like, I'm going to rip a card out of your hand. And let's say someone like Magatsu Breath or Magatsu Gale here, and then let us bounce like our Dreadmaster. So we can still Dreadmaster them. So you're still going to be able to take some cards out of their hand. And you can still put out rear guards to do like some attacks. Now, these rear guard attacks aren't like particularly strong rear guard attacks, but that doesn't really matter in this scenario because the Murakumo player has like almost no hand and probably has like a rather high damage count at this point. So even though these are really like not particularly strong rear guard attacks, it's still going to be tough for the Murakumo player to deal with. And then these cards can be doing things like bouncing to the hand. So they're able to put out some offense, which any offense of like at this point with all the cards being taken is actually really tough on the Murakumo player, especially if they want to like have a combo set up again next turn. And then they're able to convert their offense back into defense by bouncing the rear guards back to the hand. And then at this point, Murakumo has like nothing to work with and is in bad shape and can't put out like much. Now Murakumo can recover a little bit because it can do shadow clones, but it's not great. And I think you guys are starting to see like where this matchup's going and why it actually is very hard for Murakumo to fight Nubatama. Now it's easier, obviously, for the Zanbaku player when they get to Ride to Grade 3 second and have the setup live, but still going to come out really kind of have similar results. It's just not going to be as bad because they can do their play and lock you down. Now, the Vanguard will be locked down, but they can still rip the card from hand. They can still drop the bird. They can still like do this. The only difference in this scenario is the Vanguard isn't attacking. So it's a little bit easier for the Murakumo player this time in the sense that there's one less attack and less drive checks, but still going to be ripping a lot of cards. And it's going to be a lot of the same problems as before. But yeah, I found this just an interesting topic to get into because I didn't really think about this matchup till it happened. And I was like, wow, Murakumo's not doing well. And then as I played a little bit more, I started to see like what the actual weaknesses were. I found it interesting to talk about. Hope you guys too and enjoyed watching. Thanks.